Bilal Powell, and you're watching Dance Sports News.
No, Eric, and you're watching Dance Sports News.
I'm Edwards, and you're watching Dance Sports News.
This is Javon Cornell, you're watching Dance Sports News.
This is Jaden Gould, and you're listening to the Dance Sports News and Friends podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Dance Sports News and Friends podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Dance Sports News Flores. You can follow me on all social media at Dance Sports News to catch all my latest updates and interviews. Today's guest is Olympic Triple Jumper Keturah Orji. Check it out. Yeah, so first of all, can you tell me about how you got started in triple jump?
I joined the track team when I was in high school, and I originally wanted to be a sprinter. So most people know like main events like 100, 200, 400, that kind of thing. And then my coach always likes to try us out in different events and see what we're best at. And so
she was like, I think you should try out long jumping. So I tried out long jumping, I tried out high jumping, I tried out a lot of different events. And I was really good at long jump. So then I asked her to try out triple jump, which she said no at first because she's like, you have enough events to do. But my sophomore year, she allowed me to try it out, and I excelled in it very quickly.
So what was it about the triple jump that stuck with you? Because I know you also did long jump. So what stuck with you with triple jump?
I don't think it was anything that stuck with me. It was more I was just the best at triple jump. There were a lot of other events that I did and I was pretty good at, but I've always been better, or my best event has always been triple jump. So I still triple jump and I still long jump, but I don't really do the sprints anymore because I'm not as good as them at them.
So tell me a little bit about your high school career. I know you're from Jersey and grew up in New Jersey. Tell me about your high school track and field career.
Yeah, I started track just for fun. I had raced boys in elementary school and always was kind of faster than them, so that was really my motivation to try track and field. And so I think my career was, I think I excelled very quickly in my career. I think I was jumping around 19 feet my sophomore year and 40 feet my sophomore year also. And so I think I kind of started at a great place. And once I really learned the long jump and triple jump and got into rhythm, I started winning state titles and then won New Balance Nationals and then went on to World Youth in Ukraine my junior year and won a silver and bronze medal there in long jump and triple jump. And then I went to World Juniors my senior year. So I think it started out kind of me just doing a sport for fun, and I was doing really well in the state of New Jersey. And as I got better, I then went to nationals, and then I even took it out into the world. So triple jump and track and field as a whole has exposed me to so much of the world that I don't think I would have been able to see without the sport.
So tell me a little bit about recruiting. How does that work? Coming out of high school, we know you went to Georgia and ran track and field for the Georgia Bulldogs. What did recruiting look like coming out of high school, and why did you end up choosing Georgia?
Yeah, so recruiting, there's a date that I didn't know about at the time, but July 1st is the date of the summer before my senior year when they can start talking to you. I think it was or maybe it was the summer before my junior year. I can't remember, but I think it was before my senior year that they started talking to me. And so they start calling you up and trying to sell their school to you and pretty much telling you the best things about their school and why you should be interested. And for my process, I got to have home visits. So I talked to a lot of different coaches, and my parents talked to a lot of different coaches, and then they decided to have a home visit where they actually come to your home and speak to you about the school and give you some pamphlets and stuff like that. And then from a home visit, you get to decide on 5 official visits, which means they'll pay for it, versus unofficial visits, which you can take as many as you want, but they don't pay for. So I only took the official visits because they were paid for. And when I visited UGA, it was my second visit, and I loved my hosts, the people that hosted me when I was there, my future teammates. They were so nice to me. We bonded really well. I felt like we had the same values, and we were focused on the same exact thing, and our personalities just really meshed. And so I think the campus and the facilities were all really nice too. And so I think the campus and the athletes really sold me. But I originally chose to visit the school because the coach had recruited me really well, and I felt like he would help me accomplish my goals. And so I think the combination of the coach, the athlete, and the facilities, and just the opportunity available at UGA is why I chose there.
And UGA is also known for their football programs and their basketball program. So what is it like, being with some of those other athletes? Did you go to the football games, and how was that?
Yeah, so I went to a couple football games just because in the South, football is like a religion. Like you can't not go to a football game. It's like weird. And so I think I kind of had to get used to that because I didn't watch football growing up. And so it was kind of hard for me to get used to this atmosphere of like football being everything, and the football players are the best thing on campus, and like there's just a whole culture surrounded by it that I had never been exposed to. So I did go to a couple games, and I also went to some basketball games. I actually like watching basketball more, so I think I enjoyed the basketball games more. But I really enjoyed most of all my track and field teammates, because those who I spent the most time with, those were my roommates. Those people I studied with, the people I was in classes with. So it was really nice to be able to meet other athletes from different sports. But I enjoyed the most my roommates, the people I studied with, the people I had classes with, people I trained with, because they really pushed me to be the best person. I hung out with them much more than any other person. So I feel like even though it was nice to be around those other sports and be exposed to that, I still was so engulfed by my track and field teammates.
When you got to college, were you immediately the best on your team, or was it still a learning experience? And when did you start to dominate and take off and set some of the records that you ended up setting?
Yeah, so I was the best on my team in triple jump because there were no other triple jumpers at the time. I think there was only one other triple jumper that came in with me. So I was the best triple jumper, but I was not the best long jumper. And so I think it just came down to my coach teaching me a lot of things that I didn't know in high school. I really excelled when he taught me these basic skills that in like people that are in elementary school and other schools, they learn that like when they're children, but I never learned those things because I didn't start track when I was young. So he really broke it down to elementary things and build up my base again and gave me a great foundation. And I think because of that base, I was able to excel much more. And then also with my teammates. So my teammates were some of the best recruits and best jumpers in the nation. All the long jumpers that went to UGA like have won national titles. And so I think that really pushed me to like, it's a really competitive atmosphere of practice. Like you cannot come to practice and expect to have an average day or expect to just be fooling around because it's too many really great athletes together. So I think they really pushed me in the long term and helped me to get better. I think most people would say though I excelled early in my career because I ended up winning nationals during the outdoor season of my freshman year. I won nationals. And so a lot of people as freshmen don't get to win nationals. And so I think I did excel at a young age, but that was because of the foundation my coach built up. And I just continued on from there to progress.
Tell me about some of the biggest differences between indoor and outdoor competition. Is there really a big difference between those? Yeah,
there's a little bit of a difference. I think depending on your event, it may affect you differently. So for long jump and triple jump, the main differences are whether the runway is lifted or flat. So outdoor, the runway is almost always flat. It's just a track. But indoors, it can be elevated. And so I don't know what they would put underneath it, but it makes it bouncier to me. I don't think there's springs in the runway, but it's elevated off of the track and it kind of feels bouncier. So that's something that you have to adjust to because sometimes in triple jump, when you come back down on the elevated runway, it may throw off your contacts. Another thing is wind. So indoors, there's no wind, so you're good and your marks will be fine. But outdoors, if you have a headwind, you may feel like you're running into wind and it may slow you down or may put your mark back and you may not get to the board. Or if there's a lot of wind behind you, it may speed you up and you may be fouling your jump. So adjusting that too. And then there's no rain indoors, so that's great. You know, the weather will always be good. But outdoors, you come outside and it's raining or cold. That's going to affect your warm up. That's going to affect how you feel when you're jumping. It's going to affect if you can see the board and just how you feel as a whole. So I think weather definitely comes into play when it comes to indoor and outdoor.
Yeah, I wanted to ask how big of a factor does the wind assistance really come into play? Because, like, in track, they say, like, some people think Usain Bolt could run a sub 9-second 100-meter if there's wind assistance. So does wind assistance really play a big factor in your triple jump? Does it help you to get those extra meters?
It does. It just depends how much it is. So if the wind is below 1 meter per second, I think is what it is. So plus 2.0 or negative 2.0 is considered like a lot of wind. And so if it's under 1 meter per second, I don't think it's change as much because it's just like a breeze kind of. But when you start getting towards the +1 or over +1 or over +2 or anything above +2, I think it makes a huge difference. And the thing about track is if you're running on the track, you can always adjust. You can always just run, and it may be illegal wind, but you'll be fine. Well, with long jump and triple jump, if it's windy, you have to then adjust your steps. It's not just running a race and you get a faster time. It's like, it's super windy today. I backed up a whole foot and I'm still fouling. And so sometimes you don't even get marks in that day because it's so windy. You're trying to adjust the wind, but it's throwing you off. And so triple jump and long jump are very specific where your steps have to be perfectly on in order to hit the board. And if you're off, then it messes up the whole thing.
You actually competed in the Olympics while you were still in college?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so how does that work out? Because I thought once you go to the Olympics, you're kind of like pro, and then you couldn't go back to college. So tell me about how that worked out, and did that make you a better athlete when you came back to college?
Yeah, so in order to make the Olympic team, you go to the Olympic trials. So you have to have a qualifier for the trials. And once you go to the trials, you have to place top 3 and also have the Olympic standard. And so my sophomore year, I won the trials, and so I ended up going to Rio and competing there and getting 4th, and then also breaking the American record. And so when you go to the Olympics, it doesn't make you professional automatically. You can decide to return back to college. A lot of people do not decide to return back to college. But the issue is you don't get paid for any of that. So at the Olympic trials, there's prize money. Like if you win, you're supposed to get prize money. But I didn't get to accept that because I was a collegiate athlete. And then if you make the Olympic team, there's prize money. And if you place 4th at the Olympics, there's prize money. So I missed out on all of that prize money because I was a collegiate athlete. So that was kind of sad, but it was a dream come true. I've been shooting for that my entire life, and that's literally the pinnacle of being an athlete. And so I was really happy to even make the team. And going professional was an option, but you have to ensure that the person that's sponsoring you is willing to pay for college, because I wanted to finish college. And so if my contract's not going to include a college degree or payment of school somewhere, it's not really worth it to me because college is expensive.
Yeah. So I assume you must have turned down a lot of money then so you could return to college?
I'm not sure. So there's actually rules against you. You can't start negotiating with agents and companies and then return to college. You either have to, you're in college or you're not. And so my coach talked to them, and I don't know what amounts they were offering. My coach said they weren't willing to pay for college. So I was like, well, I'm not paying for college myself.
So tell me a little bit about the Olympic experience being at the Rio Olympics 2016. How was that? Because you were just 20 years old. So what was it like being in the Olympic atmosphere? How was that?
Yeah, whenever people ask me this question, I always answer it the same way because it's really surreal. Like, it's something that you aim for your entire career, and when you get there, you really can't wrap your head around the fact that you're there, especially if you're young. Like, if I had made it when I was, like, 30, I feel like maybe I would have been like, oh, finally, I'm here, I've done it. But to do it at 20, it's kind of like, you can't put into words how it feels. And, like, while you're there, you don't realize, like, I am at the Olympics right now. And so it was also kind of nerve-wracking, too, because some of the people I was competing against were people I used to look up to and watch on TV. And so it was a big deal for me. Like, I was like, oh, my gosh, I've seen you on TV jump, and now I'm here jumping against you. And so that was another thing. I had to calm my nerves and not really focus on that or compare myself to other people because I just have to go out there and compete. Like, I'm a competitor now. Another thing I always mention is how I felt like I couldn't be a fan, really, because like, I made the Olympic team, but there's people like Simone Biles and Serena Williams and, like, all these other USA athletes. And I'm like, am I supposed to be a fan? Because we're both on the same team, but I really like you. And so it was a little bit weird with that, too, because I didn't want to, like, they're there for a purpose, just like I'm here for a purpose. Like, they're not here to be signing autographs, taking pictures, and all that stuff. So that's another thing. I was just like, this is so crazy to me. So it was amazing, and I was so happy to make that team.
Did you get a chance to see any of the other events and watch some of the other Team USA people in other sports?
Yes, I actually went to watch gymnastics. I was a gymnast before I did track, and so I went to go see gymnastics one day. And that was really it. I wanted to see some other events, but the more popular the event is, the harder it is to get tickets.
Right, yeah.
And so we do get free access to these events, but it's like you have to sign up. And so if you're not one of the first people there to sign up, the tickets go quickly. And so it's hard to get into the events you want to, unless you're going to buy your own ticket to go see it.
So you talked a little bit about going against people that you had watched growing up at the Olympics. I know that I think it was the girl who got first and the girl who got third in triple jump had already previously medaled at the Olympics, whether it was 2012 or 2008. But it was your first year and you finished fourth, which was just under getting a medal. So tell me about that. Were you disappointed that you just missed out on getting a medal? What happened there?
Yeah, I actually was really happy because I looked back. So before you go to the Olympics, when you're at the USA campsite where you try on gear and get your opening ceremony and closing ceremony outfits and everything, they give you a piece of paper and write a letter to yourself and close it and don't look at it and seal it, and we'll send it to you in the future. So I wrote a letter to myself and I put some goals of what I wanted to do. And I was like, it would be great if I came top 10, but if I came top 5, I would be so happy. And so after I finished the meet, I didn't remember these goals. After I finished the meet, I was really happy. I broke the American record, and I didn't expect to finish fourth. I think I surpassed my goals completely. So I was so happy. And then I read my goal sheet, my letter to myself, and I was laughing because I was like, I didn't even think I was capable of doing this well. And then in the future, everyone kept asking me, were you upset? Were you upset about you were about to get a medal? You were 3 centimeters from a medal. And I was like, I wasn't even thinking. When you're 20, you're not like, I'm going to go to the Olympics with a medal. You're just like, I am so happy to be here. And so I looking back now, I'm like, wow, it was so close. That sucks. But in the moment, I did not care. I was like, fourth place, American record. I'm the happiest person ever. I didn't know I could do this. I was really happy and proud of myself, especially being so young. A lot of people at their first Olympics may not do as well because it's kind of a learning curve. So I was really happy with the way I did. And as you asked before, I think it helped me when I returned to college. Sorry, that's my alarm. I think it helped me when I returned to college because then I had a different type of confidence and a different type of trust in myself from my experience in other competitions.
So what's the biggest difference between the Olympics and then returning to college while going against the collegiate athletes?
I think the only difference is that it's just a smaller meet. So with the Olympics, we were staying in the Olympic Village. We get the nice gear and the nice outfits. There's a qualification round and then a final round. In college, it's kind of like we got to the meet 2 days ago, and you do a little shakeout, and then the next day you compete. And there's no qualification round. It's just 6 jumps, like a prelim and a final. That's it. Not 2 different days of competition. And so I think it's just the atmosphere as a whole, because in college, you're traveling with your team. You go there for a day, you compete, and then you go home. While the Olympics is like you get there 2 weeks early, you adjust to the sleeping. Everyone's so focused on this is the biggest thing ever. You need to be focused and ready to go. While college is like, yeah, you need to be focused and ready to go, but you also have 6 more meets in college, so you're good.
And what's the difference between the World Championships and the Olympics? Is there any really big difference there?
I don't think it's that much of a difference. It's just that the Olympics is the Olympics and World Championships comes more often. So in a 4-year cycle, there'll be 1 Olympics and 2 World Championships.
Right. Yeah.
While, so it just comes more often. It's not as seen as big of a deal because every 4 years is the Olympics. Olympics is seen as a much bigger thing than World Championships. But it's the same way to make the team. Top 3 at the USA Championships get to make the team. So it's pretty similar. It's just that the Olympics is the biggest thing ever.
I think it's kind of perfect that we're doing this interview today, July 24th, 2020, because today was actually the first day of the Olympics. What stage were you in terms of going to the Olympics? Did you qualify, or did your triple jump events not happen yet?
Okay, so I didn't qualify yet. So the Olympic trials were supposed to be late June, I think, June or July.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure it was June though. And so that would have been when everyone got the chance to make the team.
Right.
But once COVID-19 hit, everything got canceled, and so that everything that was supposed to lead up to making the Olympic team didn't happen. And so they're just gonna restart it all. Nothing happened, and next year there'll be Olympic trials again, and you'll get to qualify. So as of now, I have the Olympic standard, but I think the clock to get the Olympic standard may change. You have to get in a certain time period. So I may have to jump the standard again to make sure it's okay for the 2021 Olympics.
So when are the Olympic trials?
I'm assuming June of 2021. I am not 100% sure, though.
So how have your training looked like so far during the coronavirus pandemic? Have you been able to get in a place to triple jump and long jump and practice?
Yeah, so it's been very different depending on where I am. So I train in California sometimes, and when COVID-19 started and everything, I was in California. And so I was on a Olympic training site, and so they kind of kept the track open for a pretty long amount of time. And so some places were closing down, some tracks were closing down, but the Olympic Training Center was still open, and that was great. So I got to train a little bit longer. But then as things started to get worse and worse, the training center eventually closed the track, they closed the weight room, and things started to close down everywhere. And so I ended up flying back to the East Coast, because that's where my family, friends, everything is. So I flew back to the East Coast, and I didn't have access to a track or weight room. And so I was really just doing basic training. So that's like, it may be cardio work, like going on runs, or like stadiums, like if I get access to stairs, things like that. I got dumbbells and was doing at-home workouts with dumbbells, trying to do different weightlifting sessions. But it was extremely hard even to stay motivated because there was no meets coming up. Olympics had been canceled. Every major competition that was on the schedule had been canceled. So it was hard to stay motivated. And it really messed up my training. Like, I was like, why am I going out to train if there's nothing happening this year? And are these dumbbells actually doing anything for me compared to what I would usually be lifting? So it was definitely a hard time mentally. And now everything's opening back up, especially in the South. Things are pretty much back to normal. And so I've been on the track. I've been getting back into jumping, and I've been competing again, too. I competed 2 weeks ago for my short approach triple jump. And I'll be competing again tomorrow, actually, in Atlanta again. So I'm just trying to get back into the rhythm of things. I understand that I had like 2.5 months of not doing what I usually do. So I'm behind where I would usually be, but I have to just get in some jumps just to get back into that rhythm.
You're a part of the Atlanta Track Club. Tell me about that and what happens with that.
Yeah, so Atlanta Track Club and Mizuno are my sponsors. And so they give me my gear and everything like that. They take care of me in every way that I need. And then I sometimes do events for them. If they have like a banquet for high school athletes, I'll do a banquet with them. I've done an ad for Mizuno before. So just things like that. And they're just my sponsors, so they support me in any way that I need. And and I just represent them when I compete.
And I read you also do a lot of mentoring and campus ministry to help spread the gospel, which is the main goal that we need to be doing. So tell me a little bit about that and what happens there.
Yeah, so now that I'm not at UGA anymore, I'm actually not as involved in that as I was. But when I was still training at UGA, so when I was a student athlete, I was involved with something called Team United, which is like a combination of like crew and athletes in action and fellowship SCA, like all three of them combined for Team United. And so I started out just going through Bible studies, and then I became a leader and started discipling some of my teammates, and continue to disciple some of the women on the UGA track and field team. And so I'm a person of faith that I've always believed in God and just always felt like that's the foundation of me and who I am, and that everything I have today is because of him. And so I just wanted to spread that to them and just help them to stay grounded in that. And so while I was at UGA, I continued to be involved in it. But then when I moved to Florida/California, because I train in both places, I did not know the people on the team as well, so I didn't feel as comfortable just weaving myself in and starting that up. So I still have like my personal faith and still follow, I thought like a church and everything like that on my own, but I haven't been like discipling and as involved on campuses anymore.
Is that something you want to go back and do, stuff with like Fellowship of the Christian Athlete?
Yeah, I do. I think it'll be hard because, not hard, but when you're a part of a team or used to be a part of a team, it's easy to just mesh in and blend in. Everyone knows you already. You feel comfortable with them. You see them at practice. You're just very involved in the group. And so it's very easy to just weave yourself into there. But like, say I go to California and I'm a professional athlete, so I'm not even a college student.
True. Yeah.
And then I go on a college campus trying to talk to people. It's a little bit different. And if I'm not working, if that's not my job, like say I'm just volunteering, it's hard to get established with the group too, because everyone that's a part of Team United is kind of is staff. And so they're getting paid to do it, and then they have student athletes come and help and spread it too. And so I definitely have a desire to do it, but it may look a little bit different for me. I may have to just get involved with it at my church rather than with a campus, because I'm not as woven into campuses anymore.
Now, you're an Olympian, 8-time NCAA champion, 5-time USA champion. What's next for you?
That's a hard question to answer. Well, with next year coming up and it being the Olympics, I hope I can say I'm an Olympic medalist. I think that would be definitely the greatest thing to add to that. I am a former American record holder right now. My American record was broken. And so I also hope to maybe be an American record holder again, a current American record holder. And I think those are the two main things. Maybe add some more USA titles to that title, to those accomplishments too. So I think it's hard to predict what is next for me, but that's definitely what I'll be heading towards. I'll have USA Championships indoors. I'll have World Indoors next year too. So maybe a World Indoor medalist would be a nice thing to add. And then I'll have Olympic trials and Olympics. So those are my 4 biggest meets coming up in 2021.
I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to do this interview.
Yeah, no problem.